Hey, it's Jon Francois here from the Delicious Recap Family Matters podcast. Andrew and I are so excited to be collaborating behind the scenes with Siege from the Bruh Meets World podcast, Danielle from the No More Late Fees podcast, to see if we can succeed together as much as possible in this very saturated rewatch podcasting space. And part of what we're doing on the way to success is asking you to fill out listener surveys. Now, you may notice in the show notes of this episode, a Family Matters Rewatch Pod listener survey. We would love it if you would take a second out of your gracious time to fill out that listener survey. Your feedback matters. It can help dictate the pace, the direction, the content, the style, everything that Andrew and I will do with this podcast going forward. Whether you love us, whether you hate us, either way, if you've given us a chance in some form or another, please take a second, fill out that listener survey. You'll see it in the show notes / episode description of this episode you're listening to right now. Thank you so much for your support. And now, on with the show. Oh my God. So before we get going into the recap, got to give a shout out to listeners that just discover us and love us. For example, at Josie Joe on Instagram, JOCEEJO. She says, thank you for the follow. I just found your podcast and I love it. That was my show when I was younger, obviously referring to Family Matters. So cool. Yeah, so cool what you guys are doing. So thank you, Josie Joe. And I'm hoping she can come on the podcast sometime to tell us about her Family Matters passion, because we always love hearing those stories.
Yes, I love hearing passion. I want to hear what you think of it, what you like about it, what you hate about it. I want all of it.
Yes. And speaking of what you think about things, let's talk about what we think about episode 9 of season 1, Stakeout. The original air date, November 24th, 1989. So that I think is like around Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, right around Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Not a Thanksgiving related episode, though. It was written by the wonderful female team of Sally Lapidus and Pamela Eels, directed by James O'Keefe, who is back for a 4th episode directing this season. And I think I mentioned this in the last recap, Andrew, toward the end of it. We have a hefty group of guest stars here. We have Olivia Brown as Vanessa, who, if you're listening, maybe you know her from Miami Vice, J.W. Smith as Jake, and Ken Foree as High Top. Andrew, I think it was not until he made an appearance that I realized, oh my God, that's Kanan's dad from Kanan and Kel.
Yes. I gagged for a moment. I was like, I didn't realize he was in this.
Yeah, and apparently he's also a horror movie legend. Have you seen some of his work?
I've probably seen a few things of him in horror in them, but I can't name them off the top of my head. I think Jeepers Creepers was one of them.
All right, I got to look at, if you look at his IMDb, I mean, you'll see the guy, not only is he Kanan's dad, but his horror movie portfolio is just absolutely insane. And hopefully when we could afford Ken, we could have him on the podcast in the future. Because, understandably, actors, they want to get paid for their interview time, but Ken is a very expensive guy and he has the right to be. He's a legend. So in the future, let's keep our fingers crossed for Ken coming on.
One day we will talk with him. It's in the universe now. We've got it.
Love it. All right. Our Hulu synopsis for this episode: Harriette becomes jealous because Carl's new partner is beautiful, shapely, and I love this part at the end that they add, and likes to bowl.
The bowling. That's the important thing right there.
Mm-hmm. And Andrew, what are your thoughts? What did you think about the episode?
I thought this was a really good episode. I like this episode. It's fun. It's one of those episodes I think I laughed the whole time I was watching it. But I love that it was written by women because you can just tell it's so relatable.
Yeah, it's written by women in a good way in that, there's so much female characterness that's happening in this episode that you don't get so much in past episodes. I feel like the past 8 episodes, it's been very heavy on Carl Winslow in one respect or another. But this one, I mean, the females came out to play and I love it. So thank you so much, Sally and Pamela.
Yes, you made a gem here. I've watched this episode 6 times now.
Wow. So you really have an analysis on this. I cannot wait to hear it. Here's a few thoughts that I have. So I thought there was a decent lesson in the role that jealousy can play in a marriage. Now, of course, jealousy, that's normal, understandable, validated feelings. But there are healthy and unhealthy ways of dealing with it. And of course, for the sake of conflict, we see Harriette dealing with jealousy in a very unhealthy manner. Starts off as healthy, but then it just kind of goes toward, oh yeah, this is what's supposed to make this episode more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I feel like, and please share your thoughts on this. What do you think about Rachel becoming the queen of gaslighting? I feel like she's kind of developed this thing where it's like, oh, Harriette, Carl, look what you did, even though I played a role in the mistake that was being made.
She is totally the queen of gaslighting. She's that friend that pumps your head up about things that you should not react to, and then she just watches the fire burn.
I love it. And my God. Again, going back to the female character strongness of this episode, I felt like this episode was a fucking beast for Mama Winslow. Like, she really came to play for this one. And I don't even think she's had this kind of spotlight since the pilot. Like, there's just been a lot of great lines from her. The looks that she has, of course, her facial expressions, always legendary, but in this episode especially. And the climactic hotel scene, her moves, hello. And I think that this was sort of Sally and Pamela's way of giving a nod to Rosetta Lenoir, because as we kind of learned from our Susan Merson interview that we're going to see wherever you get your podcast, Rosetta, she has a wonderful background in acting and theater prior to coming to Family Matters. And unfortunately, Mama Winslow kind of gets pushed to the background for the most part. But when you give her that spotlight, you realize, whoa, this woman has been in the game for a while and she's a legend.
Yeah, she was amazing in this episode. Mama Winslow is probably my standout character. If I had to just name one, she ate everybody up in every scene she was in.
And before we actually get into it, I forgot that we didn't do our proper introduction. Hey, in case you don't know who the hell we are, this is the Delicious Recap Family Matters, our recap of the sitcom from the 90s, Family Matters. I'm Jon Francois, Andrew Ajay Vandertunt. Which character have you decided to be this week and why?
Today I have decided to be Vanessa because her bowling outfit is the cutest bowling outfit I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and the fact that she works out, even though you look at her body and it's like, oh, no, I think she just does more cardio than muscle workout. We'll get to that when we get to that. But let's start with our cold open. We open in the living room with Carl seated on that ugly-ass Pepto-Bismol single-person couch, and he's doing the typical corny dad dance with just the upper part of his body. And Andrew, I don't know if you picked up on this. He's dancing to a saxophone tune from what looks like a boombox of its time on the table. And it definitely sounds like generic hold music, like when you're on the phone with customer service.
Definitely. It sounds like hold music. I was trying to find what the song was, and I could not find any information on the title. So I don't even know if the song exists anywhere anymore, but it's hold music.
I think it was music specifically created for the show. I don't even know if it's because I would imagine that if it's like an already well-known song, the Family Matters producers must have had to pay God knows how much in royalties. So I think it's probably easier to just say hey, have talented, mediocre saxophone guy on the street, come on in, create some generic hold music for this boombox.
I can see that. That saxophonist. I hope he got paid well if that was the case.
Laura, Judy, and Eddie come downstairs, and Laura asks what's all the noise, even though just like when Eddie was listening to music while studying a few episodes ago, the volume, again, it's so cell phone speakers phone-ish that there's no way it could be viewed as loud from upstairs.
There's no way. There's no way you could hear that upstairs. But when I was listening to it, I had that same thought as you, this sounds like a very terrible speaker compared to what we have today.
And Carl is exaggeratingly bummed that his dad's saxophone dance music time is being interrupted. And he turns off the music to stand up and make a point to Laura that this so-called noise happens to be 60s music, the greatest dance music of all time. And right away, I was confused. I mean, Carl may be accurate, Andrew, that you could hear this kind of music in the 60s. But usually when I think of 60s music, I think of more rock stuff like Jimi Hendrix, Rolling Stones, Beatles. I don't know. The music that Carl was dancing to, I was like, oh, maybe this is more whack throwback 30s kind of swing music.
I was thinking an earlier generation, if I was comparing that to anything in the 60s, that would have been like church music, maybe?
Possibly. Carl then takes his corny dad shtick to a funnier extreme when he physically demonstrates to the kids the dance moves that were supposedly popular in this 1960s decade as they appropriately chuckle while seated. He demonstrates the pony, which I don't know about you, but it looked like he was dancing dangerously with both legs on an actual pony.
Yes, it did. I didn't know what this dance was, and then I found videos. People were really doing this in clubs.
Really? I gotta look that up. Oh my God, that's gonna be to die for to see. Also the mashed potatoes, which looks like Carl is trying to shake mashed potatoes off his legs in a suave way.
Yes, I've been obsessed with this TikTok dancing thing, and that looks like the start of a TikTok dance. It really does.
Okay, if you don't start it, then somebody else is going to start it, and they're going to make money off of it. So, I mean, you and I both need money like a motherfucker. So, come on now, start the dance.
I do, but Jon, I dance like I got hit by a truck and struck by lightning. It's not beautiful.
Look, I mean, it's the equivalent of like someone seeing a car accident as they drive by and looking back like, what was that? Like, we're attracted to train wrecks. So it's still going to be a pro, even though it's a con.
Okay, you know what? I'll give it a try. I might give it a try and try something.
And the granddaddy of them all, according to Carl, the twist. And then Carl pivot dances his body as you'd imagine the twist to be. And Reggie, given that classic over-the-top goofball dad smile that we love so much. He clearly loves this dancing.
It was really fun. This is my favorite cold opening. Just because of his energy.
Yeah. I remember telling you privately via text, I was like, wow, this is a really good cold open. So we have Eddie recognizing the twist as a dance that was invented by that guy, Chubby Domino. And I had to search Chubby Domino to figure out if that was actually a guy. And then the results immediately fed back to Fats Domino. So sort of similar, oblivious Eddie. And, obviously we get the joke there because it's, I'm sure there's clearly a phenomenon of people who thought like, oh yeah, Chubby Domino, Fats Domino. Like maybe a lot of people are confused by that.
I bet you it's a thing. And people who were back then would know like, hey, what was this guy's name? I can see that.
And Carl is disappointed by Eddie's incorrectness and clarifies that it's Chubby Checker, who was indeed a popular singer and dancer in the 60s, who made the twist dance style a big deal. Have you ever attempted the twist, Andrew?
I've never attempted it. I've seen people do it. It's just not my thing.
Yeah. I could do it, but then I would break bones, and I want to keep my bones all together because I gotta use those bones to eat, right?
You have to.
Yeah. But I think it's more muscle than bone to eat, I think.
You know what? I don't know. Well, you got to chew, so you're using bones.
All right. We'll look into that. Carl insists to the kids that it's all in the hips when it comes to the twist, and then proceeds to turn that awful music back on to physically demonstrate again. As Carl is swaying his hips, he tells the kids that the twist is just like drying yourself off with a towel. And I was thinking, like, if someone actually dried themselves off with a towel the way Carl is demonstrating, they're in a very good mood. I don't know if I've ever animatingly dried myself off with a towel like I was doing the twist.
I don't think I've ever done that either. I feel like you would get rug burn from the towel if you're doing that with the towel.
Yeah, and we don't want that because we want to save our Band-Aids from all the rug burn blood.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a try. I'll try it tomorrow. And if I have burns, then we know it didn't work.
I feel like it might be one of those things where if you're starting your day off on a terrible note, do that thing. And then all of a sudden, maybe it'll brighten up your day. Like it's one of those self-help things that you hear all the time. Like, oh, just tell yourself in the mirror that you love yourself so much that you'll give yourself a rug burn. Like, I don't know.
That sounds like a very physical love. And I'm here for it.
kind of an S&M with yourself, if you will. So Carl invites the kids to join him in the dance and do everything he does. Laura is very into the twist in her bright pink top that looks like a very sunlit pink version of the Pepto-Bismol couch. Did you catch Laura's top in this moment?
I did. That pink is atrocious.
Again, and I think Laura failed in fashion in the last episode or the episode before. She's not doing well.
She's not doing well. She has interesting fashion choices. Oh, and I have to go back to something from last episode. I was wrong. Laura did not rewear that sweater, that red, blue, and yellow one. I'm just so used to seeing that color scheme throughout the episodes, and I watched that one a ton of times, so I was wrong on that. She never wore it before. lower, but it was still ugly.
Okay. So you're talking about that Jamaican bobsledding, cool running sweater from the cold open from episode 8. Gotcha. All righty. And Judy wearing a white and black striped mime top saying the dance is fun. What did you think about Judy's top?
I thought Judy's top was kind of cute. I mean, I would wear a white and black color block top like that. It wasn't bad, but watching her do the twist was actually really funny because it looks like she was going to fall over.
Yeah, and you don't want to do that. You definitely don't want to do that. Tall ass Eddie, appropriately confused and is physically slow to follow along with this whole dance charade. Carl excitingly tells the kids to watch this next dance move, and then he bends down and quickly cries out a painful, "Ah!" Oh. And it's that classic, oh my God, the dad broke his back trying to be cool trope. But then a funny moment follows when the kids think that Carl's is part of the dance and they end up repeating him. Carl stands up holding his back and painfully exclaims, "Oh!" And the kids are all having a dumb Eddie moment and they repeat that too. I thought it was great. I love this.
Amazing moment. All I can think of is I feel like I'm watching a scene from The Cosby Show, but I'm loving it even more. And it was good.
Yeah. I mean, it felt like that could have been a dance on its own. Like, oh my God, I'm in pain. Oh yeah, we're going to follow you. You're in pain. This must be fun. Like, it just felt like a nice synchronized comedic dance pattern that I would love to learn.
Ooh, Jon, I can see you doing that.
There you go. But without rug burns, hopefully, without rug burns. Carl exclaims to the kids, "No," to try to let them know that this is not the dance. And he's really in pain as he practically limps towards the stairs. The kids are still repeating him. Carl loudly calls to Harriette upstairs. Kids do the same as Carl continues a painful walk behind the center couch, holding his back with the kids following and repeating him. Upbeat music plays and the scene gradually fades to black to signal the end of, again, a very great cold open. I mean, it beats all the random Urkel cold opens that we've seen by a mile, at least in my opinion. I just thought, we know these people, and since we already know these people and their comedic quirks, it's just, everything just falls in line perfectly, and we're just able to laugh without having a big question mark in our heads.
I 100% agree. I feel like we get cheated since these cold openings with Urkel have been replacing ones that were originally filmed. So I want to see all the others now because this was so good.
I agree. All right, we move on to scene 1 in the exterior shot of the Winslow house at night. We start in the kitchen. Carl enters through the back porch door in his police uniform with his work purse, assumingly at the end of the workday. I don't know what you call. Do you call that a police bag, a police sack? Like, what do you call the thing that he brings home from work?
I don't know. It's maybe like a satchel, but I feel like that's for medieval knights. Like, it's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, it reminds me of. So I always bring a Walmart reusable bag filled with my lunch and dinner for the workday and some other snacks. And Tony always teases me. She's like, "Oh yeah, you're bringing your purse with you. You're bringing your man purse." And I'm like, "No, it's my work reusable bag."
I love that it's your man purse, but work reusable bag. It sounds eco-friendly and fashionable at the same time.
And we're assuming this is the end of the workday since we saw the exterior shot at night. Carl tells the family they're not going to believe what happened today. So automatically I'm like, oh, the cold open where Carl had a back problem, that's not a thing anymore. Sitcom magic.
Yeah, his back is magically healed. Boom. Because of watching sitcoms, though, I always thought when I get older, I'm supposed to have back problems. It has not happened yet, but I just always thought this.
Okay, but if you do, be reminded that within a minute or two after an opening credits music, it'll be better.
Oh, my theme song just has to play and then my back problems are gone. Okay.
Exactly. Carl goes on with his vagueness, saying he just can't believe it, and it is so unbelievable. And a not surprisingly well-dressed Harriette from the countertop is ready with the witty reply, "Well, tell us and we won't believe it either." Imaginary gay writer for Harriette. There he is again.
Yes, that instant sass. I love it.
Carl says Bert is gone. He's the best partner Carl ever had, and he just up and quit the force. Rachel asks why, and Carl says Bert wanted to pursue his dream. Harriette asks if Bert is opening up a donut shop because I guess that's all what police officers can be passionate about.
I mean, they're going to be good donuts, though, because police officers know donuts.
This is true. Yeah. If I'm going to go to a donut shop, it's going to be Police Dunkin'.
That's the only time I'm going near the police is for the donuts. I'll take that.
Carl says that Bert moved to Hollywood to write that screenplay he always talked about. That screenplay might be called From the Blue Lights to the bright lights. My Cop to Hollywood Story. That's my guess for a title. I don't know if you had a guess for a title.
My guess for the title was Die Hard.
There you go. Bringing it back to Reggie's wonderful acting career.
That could be it. Maybe, who knows? Him and Harriette get divorced. He's like, I'm going to go change my life and move to Hollywood. And boom, that's how we got Die Hard.
I love it. Harriette says the screenplay Passion sounds like Bert, and Carl sort of unconvincingly says he's happy for Bert. But while he's out in sunny California breaking into show business, Carl is stuck here breaking in a new partner. Harriette, who I'm just noticing in this moment, Andrew, like she's moved to the countertop to standing next to Carl as he's seated near the table, assures Carl that he'll like his new partner once he gets to know him. Carl tells Harriette the problem is that the partner is not a him, and it's a her. And I was kind of sinking my mood. Like I was just very down because I just knew we're going to get the sexist Carl again. Immediately, as soon as he says it, I'm like, darn it, what is this going to turn into? But it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Really? I want to get your thoughts about that once we finish this scene. Rachel thankfully says that a female partner is terrific, and Laura takes a break from struggling to open a jar of pickles for some reason to incredulously ask her dad if his partner is really a police woman like her mom was. And I was like, whoa, okay. Like, because it's implied here that Harriette not only went to police academy, as was referenced a few episodes ago, but she actually worked as a police officer for some time before giving that up for elevator operator life. What a big sacrifice.
Huge sacrifice. She made a whole career change.
And I wonder if that's something that she may resent Carl for as time goes by, if she feels sad about it, because one lifestyle is pretty hectic and usually eventful, and then the other is just like, oh, I'm pushing a button to make sure you get on the elevator.
Right. With people who probably don't say thank you all the time. But I'm like thinking about it the same way you do. We saw in that episode that she made it through the police academy. She did all of that work to get to where she wanted to be and then gave it up. But was it really something she wanted to do? So I have always thought, does she resent Carl for this? And their interaction in this conversation kind of makes me think there's a small hint of resentment there, that she's no longer a police officer.
Laura hands Eddie the jar of pickles to open as she tells Carl how cool it is for him to have a female partner. Carl thinks a female partner is great in theory, but when his life is on the line, he wants a man to back him up and not some woman he has to protect. And I personally found a disgusting amount of sexism in that statement. And I was just praying that Carl would be likable by the end of the episode, because as you know, Andrew, he's had plenty of unlikability in the last few episodes.
He really has. His unlikability sparks here with the misogynist and the just terrible comments that come out. I am happy that we had Laura, Rachel, Harriette in the scene to balance it out, because just their looks alone challenges what he's saying, because we know it's not true, but it was icky. I didn't like it.
Yep. And I think it gets a little worse from here. Eddie adds to his dad's sexism like the dumb ass he is, I think, in that moment. And Eddie says in an absurd, ignorant, macho voice that next thing you'll know, women will want to play football. And then Carl and Eddie laugh, and Harriette appropriately has that classic, what the fuck did these two morons just say, facial expression and body pose ready to go to put these idiots in their place. I love you, Joe Marie Payton.
It was delicious. It was amazing to watch. I just don't understand why people have always thought women can't do things. Like football, that is not a sex-generated sport, so I just don't get that.
Oh, in 1989, trust me, I think there was still a lot of that black and white, men do this and women do that. So it's going to take a while before we get around to the idea that, hell, look at the NFL today. I mean, you see any women football games featured of any kind on national television? No. So it's still something that we're unfortunately struggling with, is being able to be okay with women being featured in sports as much as men are.
Yes. I mean, the WNBA is going off right now. They're having record attendance to their shows, their games. They're amazing players. And then all we hear about is the men, when the women are so much more amazing. Like, we get these mediocre games, and it's like, what is happening? Not to just comment on sports and men and just things like that, but it's not fair, and I don't understand it. But I love that we have somebody already as a character in this episode ready to challenge that and say, hey, you're saying dumb things here.
Totally agree. Carl notices Harriette is not laughing and nervously stops laughing himself and looks away from the brilliantly piercing eyes of his wife. Harriette asks Carl what makes him think a woman cop cannot protect herself or him. Carl is really trying to sleep on the couch tonight by saying that women are a lot smaller for one thing. He just loves to push it. He loves to push that Harriette button.
He really does. I was waiting for a good fat joke to come out.
Oh, that would have been great. The small comment makes no sense because, I mean, I feel like there are lots of large women in both length and width out there, just as there are large men. So Carl, I guess, has not met that much women.
He hasn't. And Carl looks about my height. I'm 5'5". There are men, women, and children taller than me all over the place.
Carl says women cannot run as fast and lack upper body strength, as the notably female writers of this episode follow Carl's disgusting sexism with the appropriate irony of him struggling to open the jar of pickles that I guess was passed on from Eddie to Carl. I did not pick up on that. So that was kind of a nice sneaky way for the writers to put in like, oh yeah, this pickle thing is going to actually be a bigger part of the joke.
It was really good. The way they did that, watching the scene, those were two things I picked up on, the pickle jar and the words coming out. I'm like, they brilliantly made the scene good.
Harriette takes the pickle jar away from Carl and opens it with ease. Yeah, you show that sexist pig, Harriette. You go, girl. And Carl is speechless at the open jar for a moment and then stubbornly tells Harriette he loosened it for her. And then I can hear the audience finally laughing at this moment, Andrew, between these two. And I get it. But like in this day and age, like even in a satirical way, I find it very hard to find sexism portrayed as funny, you know?
Yeah, there's no way to find it funny, especially in our time period where we are now. No matter what context it was meant in, I couldn't make myself laugh. And I noticed that there wasn't much of a laugh track or laughter from the audience with some of the jokes that we had that happened here. There were some, but you don't hear them more until the end when the pickle jar opens.
Laura cannot believe her own father is a chauvinist, which automatically I was like, whoa, that's a word I don't hear much of anymore. And Laura does use the word correctly. I mean, if you look up chauvinist, it is someone who thinks like that their particular species is more dominant than others. But I just like the word sexist a lot better. I don't know if you had a preference for sexist or chauvinist or whatever.
Either are kind of fine with me. I kind of like some of the words that they use in this episode. Chauvinist was one that stuck out to me. Sexist just works easier, I think, in conversation.
Eddie makes me laugh here with his response. Chauvinist? I thought we were Baptists.
Perfect timing, Eddie.
Yeah, that's like right up. It was it the Straight A's episode where he was confusing Columbia University with Columbia, the country where like drugs and shit happens? I think it was that episode.
It was.
So yes, I'll give him that one. So before we get into scene 2, so why did you not find Carl's sexism as bad as you thought it might be?
It's not Carl's sexism. It's the scene. I didn't find the scene as bad as it was going to be because we had characters immediately there to challenge him. His sexism was like power level 9,000. That was terrible to see. But the fact that we had Harriette, Rachel, and Laura there immediately challenging these things, it made it easier to stomach.
Got it. Scene 2. Another exterior shot of nighttime at the Winslow house. And I'm wondering if this is like the same night or a different night, because if it's the same night, they could have just used a casual quiet fade to the next scene instead of the usual music transition.
They had to say like, hey, we're changing everything. It's now nighttime. There's a new theme song.
All right, we're in the living room. Rachel seated on the center couch, looking very engaged with a book she's reading. Mama Winslow is seated to Rachel's left in a separate chair, doing some typical grandmotherly sewing thing with a white article of clothing. And I got to talk about the way Harriette was dressed in this scene here. So I was getting Jim Crow era housemaid here while she was like wiping down the coffee table with that. What do you call that? That head version of a handkerchief on her head.
I call it like a headscarf because it's not really a bonnet since it didn't have like a closed back.
Okay. Haitians, I think, my family being Haitian, I think we call it mouchoir in our language. Yes, okay, headscarf is a good one. And Harriette has the tucked in blue jean shirt and I think an apron with a pattern that matches the handkerchief. It's just definitely not a Harriette outfit. It's like, whoa, we go from like always dressed so formally to just, hey, massa. But you know what I'm saying?
It is. It's a really stark contrast. Like, it's like she has an outfit prepared for cleaning, but it doesn't look like anything we have ever seen her in. But it's pristinely clean. For an outfit to clean your house, which I'm assuming that's supposed to represent, it's super clean. But it did look like I got to go with like house cleaner servant, like right after Jim Crow.
And I also love how like Rachel and Mama Winslow, they're just seated right in front of Harriette while she's cleaning and they don't think to ask if she might like help. Like if I was Harriette, I'd be like, really? Like, guys, either help me or just get out of my way.
I can see, you know what? I can get that until I realized that the novel that Rachel is reading, I'm like, oh, this is why you aren't moving off this couch right now.
What was she reading? Did it look scintillating?
It did. It's like a little romance novel. It looked like, what was the guy? Fabio, I think was the romance model.
Yeah, Fabio. Yeah, he was big in the 90s. Yep.
It looked like one of his like book. Like, I'm like, oh, this must be very enchanting if she's enthralled while I'm cleaning in front of her.
And I know Harriette has something to say about that novel in just a bit. Harriette asked Rachel if she could help her find the furniture polish. Rachel says she will as soon as she's finished with this chapter. Harriette reads aloud the title of Rachel's book as she looks at it. Love's Burning Fury. Ooh, I love that.
It sounds good. It sounds like you're on the seas.
Yeah. You know what my favorite book is, though? Love's Burning Rug Burn.
Passion on the carpet.
Harriette cannot believe that Rachel is reading what she finds to be another trashy romance novel. But you know what, Harriette? Let people read what they want to read. That is absolutely the fun of romance novels. Like, if you don't accept the fact that they are sort of trashy, low common denominator entertainment, then what are you doing?
Very true. I mean, who doesn't love a good little graphic, trashy novel? I love them.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I don't read romance. I don't read at all, period, on a regular basis. But like, I've read a romance novel or two back in the day. And I'm like, you know what? This is very scintillating. And I would not mind reading more of this if I had the time or patience. Hell, my so-called Christian mom likes a 50 Shades of Grey every now and then. It's just fun to read.
It is. It's wholesome. It's on paper. You're not doing anything bad. Just read it.
Rachel says, when you ain't got it, you read about it. And I was thinking, like, on the contrary, my dear. Hello, Alan from episode 4, who wanted to see you again. And it looks like she wanted to see him again, but no. So something happened that we cannot really describe. And I feel like Rachel, again, here's where the gaslighting thing comes in. Take responsibility for your failures.
Yes. Rachel, you could have had a man, or at least like a roster. You could have had a roster by now.
Yes. A sweet 16 basketball tournament of men.
Ooh.
Mama Winslow, while sewing, asked Rachel if she can borrow that book when Rachel is through, which has Harriette laughing. Oh, stop fronting, Mama Winslow. I feel like her famous connections could get her any man she wanted.
I can see that, but maybe she just wants a little solo night. She's like, I don't want a man tonight.
All right, I get that. How about a balance? I'm going to offer a balance. I'm going to say solo trashy romance novel night on Monday, and then maybe a little bit of Fabio on Tuesday, because I know she knows Fabio.
You know she knows Fabio, and they probably have a villa in like Paris or something. So she's ready.
Oh yeah. And Mama Winslow is the one in control of the bedroom, not Fabio. That's what people think. It's Fabio, but it's actually Mama Winslow.
Mama Winslow is the dom. I like it.
Carl comes in through the front door and happily greets the ladies a good evening. The ladies all greet Carl vocally at the same time. And Harriette asks Carl how his new partner is as she greets him with a kiss. Carl says, not bad at all, because their first call was a liquor store holdup, and his partner Vanessa tackles the guy and holds him down. Rachel is hoping Carl learns something here and says, so, women cops are okay, huh? Carl admits that his partner is going to work out just fine. Carl then asks Harriette where his bowling shirt is. So, we find out Carl, stereotypical dad who just loves to bowl when he gets off of his work shift.
He's like, let's go bowling. It's so wholesome. It's the most wholesome thing ever.
There you go. That's TGIF, ABC, Friday Night Family block for you.
Yeah. Now, the one thing, though, I feel like they hinted at for adults, they're going bowling, but she's picking him up. So Carl needs a DD. He's about to get drunk.
Yeah, and I also like how, it's in contrast with the previous scene where Carl's like, oh, the men are the leader and the women are the followers and we got to protect them. But yet Carl is like, hey, not only is my female partner working out, but she's going to pick me up. I'm not going to pick her up. She's going to pick me up and I'm fine with that. So it's like we get a suddenly evoluted progressive Carl in this scene compared to the last scene.
He progressed 10 years. He jumped ahead 10 years in that one scene change.
Harriette tells Carl the shirt is in the laundry room. As Carl walks toward the laundry room, he brags that not only is Vanessa a good cop, but she's also a weightlifter and she bowls. And right away, before Vanessa even comes, I'm already fascinated by this character. I'm like, wow, a weightlifting bowling cop specialwoman. Let me meet and talk to this person. This person must have a lot of interesting stories.
She does. She's probably like beat up Jean-Claude Van Damme. Like she's probably got some good stories.
Yes, Jean-Claude Van Damme. I gotta tell me who this guy is because he sounds French and I've heard his name before, but I don't know exactly what he did.
Well, he's a martial artist and an actor, and a lot of his movies included his martial arts in it. I'm trying to think. Bloodsport is probably one of the biggest ones, and I think one of his best movies. And then he also played in the Street Fighter movie. You might like him, John.
All right, definitely got to look into that. Harriette replies just like one of the guys, and Carl excitingly confirms that Vanessa is taking Bert's place on the bowling team, and she's going to pick him up in a few minutes. And as Carl exits, Harriette remarks to Rachel and Mother Winslow that Carl sure has changed his mind about Vanessa. Rachel says Vanessa sounds like RoboCop, but Rachel, come on, let's be honest. I mean, that RoboCop comment, would she say that to a man if it was a male partner that Carl still had?
I don't think she would. Unless this man was really built like a unit, I don't think she would said it.
Yeah, I feel like if it's a man, it's like, oh, yeah, you're a man. You got all these skills. Why not? But if it's like a woman, it's like, oh, whoa, robot, machinery, uncommon thing. What's going on here?
But yeah, she's like, you pick up a ball? What?
You pick up a ball that's not a testicle? What is that? Doorbell rings. Harriette goes to the door to answer, and in comes a woman clearly built to be conventionally attractive by 1989 standards. She's got a tucked-in bowling shirt, pants hiked up to her ribs, and a perfectly slim body that, to me, indicates she's not the weightlifter that Carl thinks she is. I'm just like, yeah, maybe this woman jogs, but no, I'm not seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger here. I'm just seeing typical rail-thin, skinny Victoria's Secret model.
I do see that. I see what you're saying because I look at her, I'm like, I don't really see you lifting weights, but you never know. You never know. And then on top of that, those pants were the cutest freaking pants I have ever seen. That high waist that goes up like a little corset, those pants were so cute. I want the pants, but they won't look like that on me, so I'm a little jealous.
Yeah. I mean, they do definitely accentuate her curves and her nice booty. So, yes, I sounded like an old lame dad when I said nice booty, but you know what I mean. Yes, I will agree that Vanessa, as she comes in, she looks decently beautiful in this outfit.
She does. And it's a bowling shirt that she's combined with it. The fashion, I love it. And that color blue looks really good. So the whole entrance for her, I feel like they did gloriously well. I liked it compared to what Harriette has on in this scene. I cannot stand it.
Yeah. We have Victoria's Secret model, and then we have Hattie McDaniel from Gone with the Wind. It's just a striking difference. I don't like it either. The woman confirms to Harriette, Rachel, and Mama Winslow in some weird formal announcer way that she is Vanessa Greer, Carl's new partner. Rachel and Mama Winslow give very stunned, speechless facial expressions that made me laugh. Did you remember that?
I do. I remember their looks in this whole scene are amazing.
Yeah, and hopefully we're going to get Vanessa talking more normally, because I did feel like she introduced herself in a rather like, hey, I'm beautiful woman robot.
She gave us an entrance like Miss America. She's like, I just need you to know who I am and why I'm here.
1 + 2 is 3, and my favorite country is Russia, and I'm pretty. Don't you love me? That's basically Miss America.
That is. And I had to think what 1 + 2 was for a second before you said 3.
Well, this is why you're not qualified to be Miss America, Andrew. Try next year.
I will try next year. We'll see.
The audience gives an interesting woo here, which is like a mixture, like when Vanessa comes in, remember, like the audience's woo, it was a mixture of like, whoa, she's sexy, and oh shit, Harriette's not going to like this.
Immediately, the audience are the ones who egged this on. I blame you.
Vanessa detects the stunned looks on Harriette, Rachel, and Mama Winslow and wants to confirm that this is the Winslow house. Harriette snaps out of it, invites Vanessa in, and introduces herself. Vanessa recognizes Harriette as someone Carl talked about all day. Harriette introduces Vanessa to her sister Rachel and Carl's mother. Mama Winslow is still stunned at Vanessa's good looks and just says, wow. It gave me a laugh. I mean, we're not even like, I think this is only like the second scene and already Mama Winslow is just killing it.
She is. She's killing it. Just her one-liners, her delivery, her facial expressions. She really was the silent star of the scene.
Carl excitingly comes back into the living room to greet Vanessa and asks if she had met everybody. A still stunned Rachel confirms to Carl that they've indeed met this unusually fine specimen of a police partner. Carl sports the goofy smile and leads Vanessa out the door, and Vanessa is doing the animated Elvis hip swing annoying guitar move when she says she's feeling hot tonight. Carl, with his goofy smile, innocently says he's feeling hot too. When Vanessa was doing her Elvis thing, I was like, all right, that's definitely, there has to be a subtle comment in her sex appeal in that tonight thing somewhere.
There has to, like, she does these cute little movements that I just love. Every movement, every scene she's in, when we see her later too, she does like those little striking movements where she's kind of striking a pose or doing a little dance, just very subtly.
I wouldn't be surprised if she learned that in Miami Vice, the actress Olivia Brown. She's just really fantastic in this episode. Carl and Vanessa then do their bowling team chant, which I also love. Woo, 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 strike force.
It was a good little chant.
Yeah. And you would think that Carl would have broken his back doing that thing, because that takes a lot of like arm and shoulder and back muscle movement. But no, I guess he really rested his back between the cold open and the first scene and was just ready for it.
He was ready, and he had a healthy breakfast. So he was already ready to do this one movement.
Vanessa tells the ladies behind her in a very genuine, friendly manner that she hopes to see them again soon. As Carl and Vanessa exit, camera cuts to a still stunned Mama Winslow and Rachel looking at each other like, what the hell just happened? And then they both in sync look out to the distance with the same stunned faces. The fact that Thelma and Rosetta can hold those facial expressions without breaking each other up or laughing, because if I were either of them, I would have just laughed in this moment, because it's a very long time to give the comedic stunned faces that they do. They're just great.
They're really good. They are really good. I would have been laughing hysterically. I was laughing watching it.
And Harriette, clearly in a nervous manner, says to Rachel and Mama Winslow that Vanessa seems very nice. Mama Winslow giving a stunned and sarcastic, which gave me a nice chuckle. Harriette carries on with her insecure avoidance of the matter and says it seems like Vanessa and Carl get along very well. Mama Winslow again gives a funny stunned face. Rachel thankfully just comes out and says what everyone is thinking. That woman is gorgeous. Rachel compliments her upper body strength, which again, I don't see, but all right, Rachel, see what you want to see with your deceptive eyes.
Rachel knew what she was looking at. She's like, she's got good upper body strength. I like that. I think Rachel might have been feeling her.
You know what? If Rachel wants to bed Vanessa as well, then that would be an interesting X-rated After Hours Family Matters that some straight men would like to see.
Family Matters only fans.
Exactly. Harriette continues to put on a front and claims she hasn't noticed Vanessa's good looks. Rachel and Mama Winslow look at each other for a moment, clearly not believing Harriette. They look away, and then Mama Winslow, with her continued stunned face again, says, and I'm still laughing like I'm hearing it for the first time. Like, what Rosetta's doing all throughout, like, you could clearly be tired of it after like 2 times, but just her timing, the stoicness of her face, like, she just makes it funny seamlessly all throughout.
She does. That tone of hers when she makes those sounds, just that it's like, it reminds me of my family, so I just laugh hysterically because it's so relatable.
And then camera zooms in on a nervous-faced Harriette as music plays to assumingly indicate the end of this scene. We go to scene 3, exterior shot of Winslow household, finally in the daytime. We're in the kitchen with Rachel, Mama Winslow, Laura, and Eddie eating at the table, and I think it's morning because Rachel and Eddie are wearing their Winslow family cult robes. We love those, Andrew.
Their robes. Now, I think these robes in this episode look a lot less foofy and fluffy as the others do. They were kind of muted, but they have so many robes.
Too much. But Laura and Mama Winslow don't seem to be wearing robes. They're wearing daytime clothes, so that's a different thing. And did you notice Mama Winslow's baggy sweatshirt, silky fabric thing? Like, it was a very interesting top that she had.
It was. I guess that's like her lounging top is what I imagine it being. Because it looks like very baggy, but relaxed, but still put together. It was interesting.
It was a choice. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm also not saying it's good. It was just an interesting choice.
Yeah, I agree. It was an interesting shirt. It was interesting.
Laura compliments her mom on a great breakfast, and camera suddenly cuts to Harriette in her Winslow family cult robe by the kitchen sink where the spices are, and she thanks Laura for the compliment. Laura gets up from the table and tells the family she'll see them after her piano lesson, which reminds me of the piano lessons I had as a kid, Andrew. I wonder if that's a Black family thing, signing up your kids for piano lessons, drum lessons, just thinking your wonderful Black child will become a successful musician someday.
Yeah, I think it is. I had piano lessons as a kid, so I can get it. Like, I think that just Black families are like, go play an instrument, make yourself useful.
And did you love it, or were you like me and you just felt forced doing it and then you were glad to give it up?
I love it. I went to school for piano and clarinet, so it was like a passion. Once I learned, you just get to hit the keys. I was so much fun.
Eddie reminds Laura that it's her turn to clean up. Laura turns back to Eddie as she's walking toward the back porch door and defensively says she cleaned up last time. Eddie says she didn't, and Laura offers to flip this one. Eddie cleans up on heads, and Laura doesn't clean up on tails. And again, we have Laura being that middle child that takes advantage of poor, dumb, and oblivious Eddie. Oh God! And they don't specifically describe what they have to clean up. I'm wondering, like, clean up the house, clean up their rooms, the dirty dishes. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, they didn't specify. I think there was a plate on the table, but I don't remember it looking dirty. So I don't know what they were going to clean.
Eddie gets up toward Laura and says, "Wait a minute," thinks about it, and genuinely just says, "Okay," which leads Laura to gleefully flip a coin like the mean middle child mastermind she is. And, clearly Rachel, Mama Winslow, Harriette, they're not paying attention or don't care that Eddie is being taken advantage of. I don't know. I mean, do you think differently? Do you think it's a good idea for a smart adult to step in and say, Laura, that's not nice? Or do you think the adults in the room are smart to let Eddie figure it out for himself at some point in his lifetime?
I'm going to say I would let Eddie figure it out. I was thinking about this because I'm like, as a parent, something like this, so harmless, I don't think I would interfere. I'd be like, maybe he'll figure out eventually that she's tricking him with this coin flip. But if it was something bigger, like a whole house cleaning or something, or it was just she doesn't do any chores all day and he does all of them, I would step in.
Okay, yeah, because I was wondering if I was taking this really personally. Because, I've been picked on either by siblings or by people at school, and I get kind of sensitive when I see people being picked on or bullied in any shape or form. Laura's coin lands on head, and she's quick to tell Eddie that means he cleans up, and off she goes out the door, being allowed to be as mean as she wants to her siblings. Eddie picks up his finished plate bummingly and walks toward the countertop, saying that he always loses the coin toss. Carl comes downstairs into the kitchen, looking very spiffy in a dark suit. I think is it a dark blue suit?
It's dark blue. I thought it was black, but when I turned up the brightness of my TV, it's got a blue hint to it.
Yeah. I from what I know, blue always works with television. Like, that's a color that I've heard. Like, you got to wear if you're appearing on TV. Blue is good. Black, maybe not so much. Mm-hmm. So Carl's got the dark suit. He's got the tie. He's got the vest. And he gets up and he happily exclaims that it's a beautiful day. And the woo from the audience at Carl's good-looking suit look, I felt, was a tad delayed. I don't know if you felt the same way, Andrew, because there's no reaction as he comes down into the kitchen and just laughs when like there's laughter from the audience when he says what a beautiful day it is, and it isn't until after the laughs that the audience suddenly woos. I don't know if you picked up on that.
I did. I picked up on it where I felt when he walked in, I was like, okay, he looks good, but we didn't hear the woo until after the fact. I'm like, okay, that was an interesting choice.
And I wonder if that was a canned audience track moment rather than like a real live studio audience reaction.
I'm going to go with it could have been canned, because I'm thinking on your end too, maybe it was just delayed in editing when they put it in, or maybe the sound delayed as Carl entered the stage.
Harriette has, I think this is how I describe Harriette's look. Her eyes. She has these I think I'd like to fuck my husband right now eyes. Like, she was looking at Carl in that suit, and she was looking impressed as she greets Carl with a morning baby, and then reminds him she fixed his favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes. You know what's interesting is I was listening to the Will and Grace Rewatch podcast, and they were talking about how it seems to be such a thing with sitcoms where a character says, hey, I made your favorite pancakes, and here it is in this moment. Like, it seems like every sitcom character's favorite breakfast is pancakes.
Oh my God, Jon, yeah. I never thought about that. Every sitcom I've watched, there's always someone who says my favorite thing is pancakes, or I love pancakes, or that's their favorite breakfast.
Yeah, and I guess it's because it's so rarely made, because, you know how it is making pancakes. Sometimes you have to get up the energy to make it. It's not as easy as cereal. Carl thanks Harriette and surprisingly says he's trying to cut down and he'll just have a little coffee with no cream or sugar. No, I don't like that. I want my food-loving, fat joke victim, Carl Winslow.
Yeah, I'm sorry to laugh. I like black coffee, so I related to Carl in this sense. I only like my coffee black, so I was like, okay, he's having a good day.
Okay, I was talking about this with a coworker the other day. So years ago, when I lived and worked in Iowa, I started doing black coffee because I thought, all right, black coffee, like that's where you're going to get all the caffeine. And I find out from my coworker that's actually true. But I don't want to vomit every time I drink coffee, and that's what black coffee gives me. It has a very bitter, awful taste. So I just, along the way, I said, fuck it, I'm just going to go back to cream and sugar. And now, I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like, I wanted to add caffeine to start my day, but at the same time, like, I want to be able to enjoy the caffeine taste.
Okay, I can understand that you want to enjoy the taste of it because coffee itself is bitter. And even as somebody who just drinks black coffee, it's bitter, but I like the bitter taste. So for me, it's kind of like that wakes me up and it makes me feel good. And I find it to be a little tasty.
Interesting. So maybe that's why you can take alcohol a lot better than I do. Because for me, it's the same thing with alcohol. It's like, oh God, like give me like the milky, like fruity kind of drinks. Because, otherwise, you give me a whiskey and I'm done after the first little sip.
You've got to get through the first sip. The taste goes away the more you drink it.
Okay. I'll have to try. Look, because there have been times where I've been drunk and have drinking like bitter gasoline tasting alcohol drinks. And I still taste it, even like when I'm drunk and especially after in the morning. Oh, do I taste it? So, I'll have to see. Like whenever we meet up again for a nice drunk night, going to a drag show again, I'll have to try that again.
I got you. I'll bring bourbon. That'll be a good one to start with. Just try it straight.
Mama Winslow from the kitchen table suspiciously asks Carl what he's all spipped up for. Carl nervously laughs and says it's just for a routine stakeout where he sits in a car for 12 hours drinking cold coffee. Ew. Dressed like you're going to a Broadway show with a hot date, Carl. Hello. Come on now. I could see him kind of maybe lying from a mile away.
That's when he said stakeout, and I'm like, it's the middle of the day. Well, not middle of the day, morning that he's getting ready to go to work. He's got on this black suit, but blue, but it looks like he's dressed up to like go to church, a funeral. I was like, maybe he's a deacon at the church. Like he looks like he's going to something other than a stakeout.
When we eventually find out what Carl is dressed up for, we understand. But at the time, I was thinking, I think Harriette, Mama Winslow, and Rachel have a right to be suspicious. That's not stakeout outfit, Carl.
Yeah, it's not at all. When I saw it, I'm like, no way. So I can understand their suspicion in the scene.
Rachel and Mama Winslow appropriately give each other the he's full of shit facial expression. Harriette tells Carl that when he did stakeouts with Bert, he just wore his Gumby shirt and old blue jeans. Carl says Vanessa has made him realize that a police officer should always look his or her best at a 12-hour stakeout. As Mama Winslow or Harriette would say, Carl, okay.
Way to go, Carl.
Rachel, with a suggestive tone and smile, tells Carl she's sure Vanessa always looks her or his best. Carl obliviously agrees and says Vanessa is good company and they have so much in common. Rachel asks what that would be. Carl says they're both into physical fitness, which right away I was like, okay, Carl, you're even furthering the bullshittery here because, if you know Carl Winslow, you know that physical fitness doesn't exactly describe him.
Nothing at all. I expected him to say something different than that.
Harriette asks if the other cops like Vanessa too. Carl confirms they all love her because she's an asset to the force. And I knew a joke on Vanessa's body was coming when Rachel follows up with, oh, we noticed her assets the minute she walked in. Which, did you find that to be a tad risque to say back in 1989 on a family sitcom?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that to be said. I expected, because I'm assuming that they're referring to her, either her butt or her breast. When she said assets, I was like, I thought they would go back to, oh, she's got great upper body strength again or something.
Yeah. Oh, Vanessa has great upper body strength when she does that move on the bed. Oh, that great upper body strength. We love that. Reminds me of my favorite hip hop song. Slap that upper body strength.
That's golden record right there.
Yeah. Oh, did you remember that song from Juvenile? Back that upper body strength up. All right. Anyway, also, Mama Winslow has this shocked and suspicious stare at Carl during Rachel's line that is random, but whatever. I was laughing. It was funny.
It was funny. Mama Winslow ate this.
Carl tells Rachel what she just said was a sexist remark. Okay, so you can say sexist on this show and And also, Carl, shut up. Like, your remarks in the first scene were beyond offensive compared to Rachel's. So what do you, the pot calling the kettle black here?
It's the gaslighting continued. Carl is now the lighter where he's like, oh, you're being sexist. Like, he has no idea what he said just a day ago.
Carl tells Rachel that just because a woman happens to be good looking does not mean she cannot be an outstanding police officer, which is agreeable. Mama Winslow with the perfect passive aggressive attitude with this response. So, you notice she's good looking, and then sips whatever hot beverage she's drinking after that line. I mean, fucking superstar attitude on this woman. I love it.
Perfect. She sips her tea. She's having tea.
Oh, she's not having black coffee.
I'm going to say it's tea because Mama Winslow is reading her. So she's having a little tea while she reads.
You know what? It makes sense that she has tea because I feel like with black coffee, with the caffeine, it'll make you like, jittery, like energetic. Like that would be Mama Winslow's delivery. But she's like chill. She's cool. She's confident. And tea can give you that chilledness. Definitely tea. Carl tells his mama that he's a police officer and trained to notice everything. The audience then woos a little bit after that line to suggest that Carl may be taking a peek at Vanessa's assets. That audience is so suggestive with their woo-woos.
They are. These woos that they're giving us are what instigated this episode.
A lot of adults in that audience, if I may say so myself.
Oh, yeah. There's no kids in this one. This was probably like, leave your kids at home for this taping.
Oh, yeah. Especially in that long-ass hotel scene. Oh, yeah. Harriette tells Rachel and Mama Winslow to quit it, and she's happy that Carl has a good working relationship with his partner. Carl thanks Harriette with a cute kiss on the cheek and says Vanessa and him are just two cops doing their job. All he sees is a uniform when he looks at her, and the way he feels about her is strictly professional. Carl, without hesitation, then follows up all this perfectly fidelity husband speech by asking if these pinstripes make him look thinner. And then, okay, so the pinstripes, are they cufflinks? What are pinstripes? I was trying to figure out what that was.
Oh, so it's the design on the vest. Well, the vest, the jacket, and the pants. If you notice, there's that like line detail. Those are pinstripes.
There you go. Thank you so much. And then he proceeds to suck his belly in while raising and tensing up his shoulders. Harriette sarcastically says she can hardly see him. Carl, with still tensed raised shoulders and a sucked-in belly, thanks Harriette and exits out the back porch door as if he expects to naturally hold that posture all day. Oh, Carl.
It was an interesting posture. Have you ever watched any of the Porky Pig cartoon shows?
Oh, I'm sure I watched a lot of them when I was a kid. Yeah.
When Porky Pig gets serious and he walks around, that was what Carl's stance reminded me of. And I'm like, what is he doing?
And I'm sure there's going to be a Porky Pig fat joke at Carl Winslow's expense at some point in this show.
Oh, there's going to be. I guarantee it.
Oh, Porky Winslow over there. Alrighty, camera cuts to Rachel and Mama Winslow looking at Carl exiting and then looking at Harriette like, woman, do you really believe this man? Harriette looks at their expressions and says, what? Rachel is physically sauntering toward the countertop near Harriette and passive-aggressively says, nothing. And then follows up with reminding Harriette that Carl is going to be spending all that time in a parked car with that gorgeous younger woman, but definitely no reason not to worry. Harriette, clearly avoiding some jealous feelings, claims that she's not worried. Rachel continues her sarcastic, passive-aggressive charade and exclaims, of course not. Why should you be? For any normal man, this would be an incredible temptation. Fortunately, we're talking about Carl. So this is the gaslighting that we're talking about with Rachel Andrew. And also that particular comment that she just said, I found to be weird because, like, you know, you look at her attitude and she seems to be implying that Harriette should be worried about Carl cheating, but then she says that Carl is not a normal man who would give in to the temptation. So what are you talking about, Rachel?
Yeah, Rachel is the ultimate gaslighter. She's so shady and she's being so sarcastic, but doing it in such a gentle manner that you don't want to hate her for it. But then it's like, stop pumping up Harriette's head here.
Mama Winslow chimes in, and already I know she's not going to help here. Thank goodness there were no cops like Vanessa when my Sam was on the force. Right away, more helpful backstory. I'm finding out that police officer work runs in Carl Winslow's side of the family. And I'm guessing Carl inherited the passion from his father and then just happened to find a wife with the same passion who unfortunately gave it up to operate elevators.
Yeah, that's you've got the timeline of Carl down because, wow, to get this extra information, it makes this whole thing look differently now when we think about their family dynamic. Because now I wonder, how did Sam die? Did Sam die being a cop? Because we know that he passed away.
It would be so funny if Sam died slipping on a donut that he accidentally dropped on the sidewalk. Like this would literally be the equivalent of Al Capone going for tax evasion in jail instead of all the prostitution and gambling. It's like, oh, how did Sam die? He got shot. No, he just slipped on his jelly.
It was the donut that took him out.
Pretty much. Harriette insists to Mother Winslow that she trusts Carl. Mama Winslow tells Harriette she knows she trusts Carl just like she trusted her Sam because Sam was a good man and Carl is also a good man. But we don't know anything about Vanessa. Mama Winslow floating this very over-the-top theory that Vanessa may be a sex-crazed vixen.
That's one of those things, and I wrote it here in my notes. They all go after Vanessa as this like sex-crazed, sex kitten thing. And it's like, we do have to remember Carl would still have to consent to this. No matter what Vanessa does, he would have to consent. So let's stop blaming her.
Yeah, and also like the balance that does have some sexism undertones of it. It's like maybe the concern should more be on Carl because he's the married one rather than Vanessa, this woman that you definitely don't know anything about. You know something about Carl. You don't know anything about Vanessa. So what you're just putting out there is just very pointless speculation.
It really is.
And Mama Winslow in that moment, she reminds me of my mom because my mom, possibly like a lot of Black moms out there, they have this tendency to create these very dramatic scenarios based on what they don't know. So, for example, like when I, worked and lived in Iowa doing radio, me being a Black man used to very diverse surroundings in my home state of Connecticut, all of a sudden my mom's like, oh, my God, you're going to go there and you're going to find a lot of racist white people that you don't know and you're going to get shot and killed. All this stuff is going to happen. And it's like, let's actually see what happens first.
Yeah, it's a huge leap, but that's what Black moms do. My mom did the same thing.
Yeah. Was there a scenario where she made it out to be more than what it actually was?
Oh, totally. When I moved to Texas, she's like, you're going to get down there and they're all racist. You're going to get hung from a tree. It's all going to be bad. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, Mom, it's nothing like that once I finally got there.
Yeah. Did you have a phone call with her one day where it's like, Mom, no rope yet. Sorry.
I didn't specifically say that, but I did have a few scenarios where I'm like, Mom, I haven't seen any cowboys down here yet. I feel okay. I feel safe and nobody's wearing bed sheets outside.
Anyway, Rachel and Harriette just give a speechless look to each other in response to Mama Winslow's crazy theory. And then we fade to the next scene, scene 4. Fade to the living room with Laura, Judy, and Eddie on the center stage couch. Laura and Judy seem to be reading a magazine together, and Eddie has the funniest, horny teenager facial expression as he's watching the television. And by the sound of it, looks like it's a Paula Abdul music video that's playing. So Eddie's watching. He's turned on by Paula Abdul. And me being a guy who is in the audio editing business between my radio work and this podcast, automatically I was like, you know what? The Paula Abdul sound quality sounds like it was placed by the editor of this episode in post-production, like after the episode was recorded in front of an audience. And yeah, it just sounds very, because I feel like if it was like actually coming from the TV in the scene, it would sound a lot different. It would sound exactly like the muted boombox, I think, that, we hear from Carl in the cold open. Because if you notice, Andrew, the sound quality from the Paula Abdul music video, it just envelopes the entire scene and it just doesn't quite match the sound quality of the mics of the children. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And thank you for breaking it down that way, because the only thing I noticed, I was like, oh, this is a Paula Abdul song. Maybe like they were like, you can't make it sound like bad or whatever. They had to pay to use the song. So that's why I thought it sounded so different. But then it makes even more sense that it was added in post as opposed to the live recording, because it sounds so different than everything else.
It's just very stereo. Like whatever Carl thinks is loud music in the house, like that's loud music. That's not whatever muted radio shit that you heard from Eddie in the Straight A's episode,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Laura notices Eddie's horny face and turns the TV off with the remote. Eddie is now staring out into the distance with his horny face, and God only knows what is on that teenage boy's mind right now. Rachel quietly comes down the stairs with a basket of laundry and wonders why Eddie is staring at the TV when it's off. Laura, while looking at Eddie like he's a charity case, says she turned it off for his own good. We see Eddie still horny, staring at nothing. Laura tells Rachel that Eddie was watching another Paula Abdul video, and Judy says, yeah, that girl can really move, while shimmying her shoulders in a kind of adorable way. I was like, oh, look at Jamie trying to act here. I like that.
Adorbs Jamie. She kind of stole the scene, almost how Mama Winslow's been in this episode. The moments where we see Judy, she's just so iconic.
Now, is it because we're after the fact of Family Matters 35 years later and we're like commenting on how Judy didn't get her flowers? Or is it just genuinely like you would say this if you were in 1989 originally watching the episode when it aired?
I would say this when I watched it when it originally aired, because I always find it just cute when anybody does like little dance moves or little movements that really kind of stick out in the scene. And that stuck out to me. But now that I want to give Judy her flowers as well, it's just even better.
Rachel recalls bummingly that there was a time when she could move like Paula, takes a beat, and then says now she just reads, which gets a nice laugh from the audience. You go, Thelma. And also, I can tell that there are some adults in the audience that are like, yep, I had my party days, and now I just want to read in my onesies.
Just let me read in my onesie. My knees hurt.
Yeah, like little kids would not laugh at that joke. They wouldn't get that sort of middle-aged-ish adult struggle. Rachel then attempts to get Eddie's attention. Laura says she'll give him one more minute before hosing him down. Cut to the kitchen with Harriette and Mama Winslow sorting through laundry together. Again, let's ask ourselves, is the kitchen really the place for these kind of things? I don't think so.
I would never sort my laundry in the kitchen. I don't understand that. Whether it's dirty or clean, I just don't get that.
Yeah, just do it in places where clothing that's not worn by anybody makes sense, like the bedroom, the living room. The kitchen, it's like, that's where food is.
That's me. That's where the food is. So my two struggles, either if I'm sorting through dirty laundry, whatever's on the dirty laundry is going to get on my food or my plates and stuff. Or if it's clean, my food is going to smell like my clothes, and I don't want that.
Harriette finds a very exotic piece of lingerie and says she didn't know Rachel has such exotic taste. And boom, I mean, before Mama Winslow even said anything, I knew that she was just going to be like, sorry, that's mine.
Now we see a little one of her intimates. We know Mama Winslow's into some fun stuff.
That's for Tuesday night with Fabio.
That's definitely not her solo night. I'm there.
Yeah. Wow, Mama Winslow, you like to dress very sexily for just reading. Damn, you are turned on by a book.
We never know. I mean, she's got lacy things. This could be her thing.
I was looking at the physical layout of that laundry, and I looked at Mama Winslow's physical makeup, and I was just trying to imagine, like, is that really going to fit? Is that going to be comfortable on her?
Maybe she likes it a little tight, like a little compression play or something, you know?
This is true. Rachel enters the kitchen and asks Harriette with a stupidly sassy, passive-aggressive attitude again if Carl is home yet. Harriette casually says while going through laundry that Carl is still on that stakeout. Rachel is like, out all night? 5 nights in a row? Harriette stresses that it's 4 nights and Carl is working. Rachel is slightly annoying me right now with her gaslighting attitude and sarcastically says, of course he is. Don't you worry about a thing.
I feel like Rachel's trying to get back at Carl for forcing her to date dudes. And she's like, I'm just going to be passive. I'm going to do all this gaslighting to mess up your relationship because you forced me to get back out on the market.
I think you have a point here because Carl did put some pressure with the Alan episode. You have a great point on that. I like that. Harriette reminds Rachel that Carl doesn't need to go out looking for love because he gets plenty at home, which the audience responds with a weird mixture of quiet chuckles and woo! God, man, this adult audience giving so many flavors of reactions. It's just interesting to hear.
It is. I feel like the people in the audience relate. They're like, maybe he'll get some tonight, or maybe he won't.
Yeah, like one half I felt like was like, oh, woman, stop acting like your husband wouldn't cheat with that fine piece of ass. And then you got the other half of the audience that was like, you go, Harriette, with defending your sexual prowess.
I love it. Harriette's a sex kid, and she's here.
Yeah, maybe she should wear that lingerie. I think she would be fantastic in it.
Ooh, I can see Harriette in like a sexy sweater with like a good pair of high heels or something in that lingerie.
Yep. Rachel tells Harriette they all know how much Carl loves her, but putting any man next to Vanessa is like putting a kid in a candy shop. Translation, we know you can trust him, but don't trust him.
Rachel, she's just so terrible. She is terrible.
And Mama Winslow responds to Rachel perfectly. And we all know how much Carl loves candy. I love that line. I loved it because it's both a fat joke and it's sexually suggestive. It just had a great combo.
Her delivery was perfect of it too.
Yeah, seriously. Harriette has had enough and insists that she trusts Carl and he's out working, not out with some bimbo in a sleazy motel. Harriette shakes a piece of clothing from the laundry and we hear something glassy-ish from the pockets that drops to the floor. Harriette picks it up and it's revealed to be a key with a very large Valentine's night-ish design covering it. Mama Winslow seems to have an oblivious Eddie moment as she looks at the key. Looks like a key. Remember that line?
Mm-hmm.
Rachel is clearly hinting to Harriette when she says, looks like a motel key. We all know what happens in motels.
Mm-hmm. Very vintage motel key, too.
Yeah. Harriette reads the key's design. The key says, room 3, Louis' Love Grotto. I've never heard the word grotto. It almost sounds like groin, like a part of your body that's like a libido kind of thing. And Google actually says grotto is a small picturesque cave, especially an artificial one in a park or garden. So I guess it's Louis' creepy love man cave. I think that's the translation.
That's what it translates to. I think, was Playboy big around this time?
I mean, Playboy's been around since like the 50s. So I would imagine that it was still fairly big-ish. Yeah.
Because the only reason why I ask that is because I only know the word grotto from the Playboy stuff. Because they'd always be like, "Oh, we're going to Hugh's Grotto."
Okay, so that definitely has that means man cave. That definitely means man cave.
This sounds sticky.
Oh yeah, don't even get me started on that. Mama Winslow's perfect response. As I mean, it should be a shirt. It should be a catchphrase, like the equivalent of Urkel's "Did I do that?" Mama Winslow, the amount of times that she says, it's like, come on now. That is the perfect catchphrase that defines season 1.
It really did. She is the Urkel of season 1 with her phrase.
Yep. We go to scene 5. Right back to the same evening in the kitchen with Mama Winslow, Harriette, and Rachel discovering the key. And you could tell, like, when they went to this scene, it was like there was definitely like a commercial break transition when the episode originally aired. Rachel starts it off with this disbelief question. Louis' Love Grotto. Harriette says there's some reasonable explanation for Carl having this key. Mama Winslow seems to genuinely say that maybe those are not Carl's pants that the key was found in. Rachel follows up with revealing that there was also a Twinkie in the pocket. So, yep, apparently Carl is the only guy in the world who loves Twinkies. Oy vey, Rachel. Come on, give the man some trust here.
I give him some trust, but the Twinkie was perfectly rolled in a foil. So that means Carl takes care of his Twinkies.
That sounds so suggestive for some reason. And also, like, he washes his Twinkies in the shower, so he's ready for Vanessa all night long. And also, be careful with Twinkies in the pocket, because as I learned from my strawberry shortcake ho-ho, you put it in the pocket in a certain way. It flattens, it smashes. So be careful with your Twinkies. That's a PSA.
I thank you for delivering that. Twinkies, some of them are vegan, so now I know.
Ah, there you go. I love that. You're vegan, so this is perfect. Mama Winslow agrees and says so much for that theory in response to her guess that it isn't Carl's pants. Harriette says maybe the key has something to do with the stakeout. Rachel shoots that down and tells Harriette they're supposed to be staked out in a car and not a motel. Harriette suggests there's not much difference between a car and a motel, which, if you think about it, I mean, I've been to some motels. It'll feel like you're sleeping in your car. They're not that great.
Very true.
As Harriette asks what's the difference, Mama Winslow, again with a perfect response, a vibrating bed. Now, have you been on a vibrating bed? Because they used to be a thing back in the day, and like water beds, they've just sort of phased out.
I've never been on one, but I've always wanted to try one out because I just wanted to know, why would I want to be on a vibrating bed?
So I think the Pod Meets World podcast people, the cast members of Boy Meets World who recap that show, they had a great observation about it. They said that it's one of those things where, like, it's good for 2 seconds. Because if you think about it, the point of it is that you're vibrating. So you're on the bed, you push the vibrating button. Oh, I'm vibrating. Oh, this is fun. And then, like, after 2 seconds, you're like, oh, okay, I'm good. Because really, do you want to be sleeping all night like that?
No, I don't want to be shaking. Like, I feel like I'm in a little mini earthquake. No.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't do that. We don't do that. Harriette insists that Carl is a good husband and he's never given her any reason to doubt him, even if he is at Louis' love grotto with Vanessa. Harriette is sure nothing is going on. Then Rachel reads that the back of the key says, ask about our hourly rates, and does this eye roll to the side like, oh boy, Harriette, you better start worrying. And this is where I'm going to come to Rachel's defense, because usually I think both motels and hotels, like they'll give you the rate for the night. Unless it's a normal thing for hotels and motels to charge by the hourly rate. Is that a normal thing outside of sex?
I have only seen them at whore motels, I guess is what you could call it. I have only seen that there. And I've been to a few where they do the hourly rate and it looks bad.
There you go. So if it's hourly rates and it looks sketchy, some prostitution is going down. Harriette quickly says she's going down to the grotto to prove she can trust Carl as she rips the key out of Rachel's hand, which is, of course, intended irony because she's not trusting him by doing that. Music fades us to the next scene. And big alert here. This is a long-ass scene. A long-ass scene. Like this is basically like 80% of the episode.
It really is. I was feeling when I was watching it myself, I'm like, we've been here a while.
So once we get through this scene, I think we're pretty much done with the show. All right, here we go. An exterior shot of Louis' Love Grotto, which I might add is the most unconvincing exterior of a motel I've ever seen, Andrew. Because first of all, like I thought this Love Grotto was like a playful name for someone's singular room, like not the name of the entire damn motel business. Did you get that perception, or were you already convinced that it was an entire motel?
I was assuming it was going to be like a building, maybe like a one like storage area or something like you're thinking. I did not imagine a full strip motel.
It's definitely a reason for the stakeout to be there because, who the hell knows what's going on in a business named Louis' Love Grotto. That's suspicious enough. And secondly, going back to the exterior shot, did you notice that this exterior shot like of the building looks like a freaking animated drawing with real people and cars edited in the post-production process? I was not convinced this was an actual real live action building.
It really does. It really does. Now, I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but there's other scenes in future seasons where they go places and they have that look where it looks animated, but there's a flashing sign and they like projected people on top of it.
All right. I got to look back into that. That's interesting. Cut to an interior of one of the rooms, which is your typical over-the-top Valentine's night themed room with the red wallpaper, pink door, and silky sheets, the heart-shaped headboard, etc. Camera pans to the right to reveal Carl and a seductively dressed Vanessa playing a card game at the coffee table. I mean, look, I'm not surprised that Carl is not doing anything sexual with her. I know he has those morals, but damn, Vanessa, she's really dressed up like she has a hot day going on.
She is, and that belt, I want that belt. That dress is cute, but the belt is the star of that outfit.
Vanessa puts down her card hand and says gin, and Carl cannot believe he lost again at this game. Vanessa tells Carl maybe gin isn't his game, but Go Fish might be. Carl thinks for a moment and then agrees. Vanessa tells Carl she wants him to know something. She wasn't thrilled with the idea of having a male partner because she always is getting hassled or hit on, but with him, she feels comfortable. Telephone rings. Carl walks over to answer the telephone, and of course, he's holding a very pink phone, and for some reason, he greets the caller with a yo. Like that right there should give it away that Carl is faking it, because Carl just does not convincingly give yos ever.
Never. Not in his life. I don't think I've ever heard him say it. And that phone is super cute. This whole room is cute. I like this whole room.
You want Vanessa's belt. You want the pink phone. I mean, let's go back to 1989 and buy that stuff for you, Andrew.
We might do it, but I would only go there for maybe like a night, because I think after a night, I want all that stuff gone.
But we get the implication, of course, that Carl is putting on a front for whatever criminal may answer. So we get that. Carl relaxes his shoulders and realizes it's either a coworker or maybe his boss, Phil. Carl says there's no sign of implied criminals and puts down the phone for a second to tell Vanessa that Phil says her microphone keeps cutting in and out. Vanessa looks right down through her booby-filled shirt and asks Phil if he can hear her. Vanessa asks Phil if he's in there while still looking down. And I'm just getting that we're doing like a suggestive, like Phil being in Vanessa's tits joke right here. Again, kind of risque for a family sitcom in 1989.
Very, very. This whole scene I thought was pretty on top for like a family show.
Vanessa thinks the mic must have come loose since Phil is still not responding, and she gets up in her very tight, skimpy outfit intended to show off her body in a thirst trappy way. walks over to Carl, tells him to take a look at this mic on her backside. Carl gives a great flabbergasted look at Vanessa's backside with the phone to his ear as if he's thinking, is this really happening? Does this woman really think this is a good idea?
This is the only moment where I'm like, Vanessa knew what she was doing.
Carl tells Phil on the phone to hold on, puts the phone down, and does this funny, clumsy hesitation thing with his hands that clearly says he doesn't know how to help Vanessa without it being suggestive. Carl finally manages to slip his fingers through the back bottom of Vanessa's shirt to adjust the mic and suggests they now go over the plan. He will get the diamonds, check them out, then give the signal. Carl then reveals the signal to be the line, "They look real to me," which he says with his face very close to Vanessa's cleavage to make sure her mic is working. But, of course, the same thing could be said about them titties. How about them titties? Sorry, I'm trying to sound like a cool, hip, macho, horny daddy-o, and it's clearly not working.
You gave us a good PG dad moment talking about it, so I like it.
Vanessa is looking at Carl as if she's wondering if that was necessary, and Carl, realizing the awkwardness, nervously laughs like Eddie Murphy did back in the 80s and steps away from the cleavage. As Vanessa is adjusting the mic cord within her skimpy outfit, Carl gets back on the phone with Phil to confirm that when he hears the signal, he needs to come in fast. Carl confirms to Vanessa that Phil says the mic is coming in loud and clear. As Carl ends the call with Phil, Vanessa asks Carl to loop her mic through so she'll stay put. Carl obliges, but suddenly we hear the rattling of the doorknob. Vanessa looks back to see who it could be, not seeming to remember Carl helping her, and now he's awkwardly got his arms wrapped around her. When Vanessa thinks it's the criminals arriving, she's physically pivoting her body a little wildly in response to the pressuring moment, and Carl frantically tells her his twistle flex is caught in her cross your heart. Did you already know what these brands meant? Or did you have to look them up like I did?
I have no idea what they mean. I did not actually look them up because they said it so fast, I couldn't catch it.
I thought it was brands for the cop stakeout mics, but the Twistle Flex actually refers to Carl's watch, and the Cross Your Heart is Vanessa's bra, according to Google. Yeah, so it's watch and brassiere brands.
Why does Carl know her brassiere brand?
We continue the suspicion. Maybe something happening before we cut to this hotel scene that the writers did not want us to see because they wanted us to still be sympathetic toward Carl.
I can see that. That is specific. Huh.
But keep in mind, Carl, I think, still has sexy time with his wife, Harriette, so maybe Harriette wears cross your heart bras. Maybe he has to undo the bra when he's doing his sexy time manly move, and he just notices the brand name when he's unloosening it from the back, and there you go.
Maybe, but then why are you unloosening Vanessa's bra? Because the mic is taped to her lower back, not to where her bra would be.
I'm guessing Sally and Pamela, the writers, they wanted to create high, sexually suggestive stakes.
I see. Look, they got me. I would not have thought of that until you said that.
It's not the criminals, though. It's the suspicious Harriette and Rachel walking in. And Harriette calls Carl's name in a shocked manner when she sees the compromised position Carl is in with Vanessa. Carl calls back to Harriette in a very funny, worried manner, as if he already knows what this looks like. Rachel gives a big wow, and she's either stunned by Vanessa's skimpy outfit or her and Carl's compromised position. I don't know. But I will say, Thelma Hopkins as Rachel, she's really delivering in this scene. She has some great comedic moments.
She really does. She has some good comedic moments in this. And I thought she was reacting to the room, but then it makes sense that she's reacting to the two of them as well.
It could be a mixture of both. Like, I got, when I looked at it for the first time, like, okay, yeah, but Rachel is clearly looking at Vanessa like, whoa, if I was gay, like, she had that look. Carl is exclaimingly wondering what Harriette and Rachel are doing here. Harriette puts an even bigger exclamation point on the matter and asks Carl what he is doing here. Carl innocently says him and Vanessa are working. Rachel's sassingly sarcastic reply, "Oh, that's a new name for it." Carl tells Rachel to stay out of this. Harriette gives Carl a shame speech instead of at least letting him explain what's happening. So she goes on. She says for 20 years, she's given him all her love and trust, and this is how he repays her, which I find to be a weird thing to say because I feel that love and trust is something that is equally exchanged and balanced between partners, not a scenario where one partner gives it all and the other partner then pays them back with their all. I don't know. Thoughts about that, Andrew?
I am with you there. It was a very weird thing for that when I heard her say it of like, oh, this is how you repay me. Why is he repaying you for your love and trust? You shouldn't need to be repaid. It should just be reciprocal.
And also, I love how Harriette's deducing the breaking of this 20-year love and trust to this like minor physical encounter that she's walking in and doesn't really quite know what it is.
Yeah, she has no idea. This whole moment for her to get to the hotel to see this and then react the way that she does. I'm like, wait, Harriet, you have no idea what's happening. And this doesn't even look that bad.
Really, it does not. Harriet chastises Carl for sneaking out to Louis' love grotto with this, and then Rachel butts in from the bed she was sitting on with cheap floozy before sitting back down again with a very goofy, yeah, I said it, bitch, face to Vanessa. I also love all these terms that we don't hear about women anymore to describe their sexually promiscuous ways. Like, when's the last time you heard floozy and bimbo, like nowadays in 2024, to describe a so-called whore?
I can't recall a time that I've heard anybody say that in recent history, but I will be saying hussy, floozy, and bimbo from now on.
Yeah, because now you can say it playfully. Now it just sounds so playful and fun because of how old and classy it sounds. Or well, not classy, but just how old-timey it sounds. Harriet repeats Rachel's cheap floozy accusation, and Vanessa understandably takes offense and asks Harriet who she's calling a cheap floozy. Carl tells Harriet to wait a minute because him and Vanessa are on a stakeout, just like he told her. Harriet, in her sarcastically pissed attitude, tells Carl she guesses he forgot the part about the motel. Carl confirms that the stakeout was phase 1 and the motel is phase 2. Harriet makes me laugh when she appallingly asks, what's phase 3? That's when they make a baby.
And that's when they make a baby. Baby comes in a baby carriage. But this is Carl's fault. He should have said something to Harriet.
This is true. But also, side note, Carl and Vanessa's baby, given Vanessa's good looks, and Carl has a charming face. Whatever, his weight is another thing, but he has a decently charming face. That would be a good-looking baby.
He probably would have a pretty cute baby. Yeah, I can see that.
Rachel butts into the tight camera shot of Harriet perfectly with this line. I think that's the part we came in on. And then Rachel sits back down on the bed with the, yeah, I said it, bitch, face again. The studio audience clearly loving this, and as they should. Trust is clearly not established here, but great comedy all around happening from Jo Marie and Thelma. So bravo. Again, the women came to eat in this episode.
They really did. Great scene.
Carl explains that his hand just got stuck to Vanessa's microphone and that she's wired to tape the buy. Vanessa grabs a briefcase from the ground, opens it, and insists that Harriet look at the money inside being used to buy the stolen jewelry because some very bad guys are going to be here any minute. Harriet is looking at the money while Vanessa explains herself and clearly looks like she's realizing she made a mistake. After a brief pause and Vanessa closing the briefcase, Harriet simply says, whoops. Yeah, Harriet, you were wrong.
You were very wrong, girl. You jumped the gun here.
Rachel, in her classic denial of responsibility reminiscent of the police car fiasco in the body damage episode, tells Harriet when she is wrong, she is really wrong. Oh, that gaslighting Rachel.
Rachel, she is a grenade thrower. She threw all these grenades. She's like, how did we get here? Like she had no responsibility.
Harriet looks at Rachel appallingly and says it seems to her she had a little help. Carl butts in and doesn't care whose fault it is because Harriet and Rachel are in danger and he wants to throw them out the room now. Then we quickly hear a knock at the door. But Carl says they're here loudly enough for the criminals to hear on the other end. So I guess whispering is not a thing on this show. Like we said about sitcoms being like live theater, always got to project your voices, even when you're supposed to be whispering.
It's the loudest whisper ever.
Harriet and Rachel make a run for the bathroom to hide, and Carl closes that door to get himself ready to be in character with Vanessa. Carl then proceeds to do a stereotypical hip jive walk towards the door, as if it's still the 1970s. Vanessa opens the door in her sexy character way, and oh my God, I did not expect it to be Mama Winslow. Did you?
I didn't think it was going to be her. I thought it was going to be the criminals.
Yeah, that was a nice surprise. I like that, Sally and Pamela. Thank you for writing that moment. Carl appallingly exclaims, Mama! Like he can't believe she's here. And of course, Mama Winslow jumps to wrong conclusions like Harriet and Rachel with Carl Otis Winslow. Probably the first time since the pilot since we've heard his full name.
It is. It's the very first time since the pilot we heard it.
Yeah, so you know he's in trouble. Vanessa asks Carl what his mother is doing. Mother Winslow comes in with a boom, cutting her off with hush hussy. So yes, the hussy name that you love so much. And yeah, man, Rosetta Lawara, she's coming in with all this fire, all this energy that's been contained because she just has not been allowed to play in Family Matters up until this moment.
She hasn't. She's got this built up energy, and we're about to get one of my favorite jokes.
Oh, really? Okay, you'll have to tell me when it comes. Carl rolls his eyes at his mother's ignorance. Mother Winslow asks Carl if he's lost his mind because Harriet is on her way down here now. Mama Winslow is feeling sorry for that poor, trusting woman and the 3 innocent children. And right away, I was just like, oh, Faye. Carl is never going to be her favorite child. Carl almost built her a shower, and this is the thanks he gets.
I mean, Carl should have kept his hands to himself.
Vanessa throws her hands up in annoyed exhaustion and asks if the kids are coming too. Mama Winslow then just gets up to Vanessa's face and screams, home wrecker.
Mama Winslow, she really ate the seed.
Home wrecking hussy floozy. Harriette calls out to Mother Winslow as she and Rachel come out of the bathroom, clearly ignoring Carl's very important instructions. Mother Winslow is surprised to see Harriette and Rachel recommends to Mother Winslow that she see the size of that hot tub because you could fit a whole football team in there. And then Rachel gives a delighted woo at the thought of having her way sexually with an entire football team in a hot tub, which I feel like is just a large gangbang on Pornhub that I don't know if I want to see.
I don't want to see it because I want to be the participant in it.
At least you're honest. You're going to be like, Rachel, get out of the way. Like, let me have my fun.
Yes, like, Rachel, I'll show you what to do in this scenario. You haven't had a man in years.
Yep. So again, we're getting some very risque material for a family sitcom. I love this. Mama Winslow demands to Carl that he go straight home because he is grounded for the rest of his life, as if he is not a grown man with a wife and kids who's allowing his mother to live in his house.
That was the joke that got me. I laughed so hard out loud when I was like, she can't ground this grown man for life, but he looked like he was ready to be grounded.
And it's a good joke. I agree. It's a good joke. Carl rolls his eyes again because he can definitely get away with that in this absurd scenario and not an actually serious one, and insists to his mama that Vanessa and he are in the middle of a sting and asks if everyone can just leave. And as Carl is in the middle of trying to get everyone to leave, the camera cuts to the open bedroom door where we see a suspicious figure start to walk in, and it's two scary-looking bald black guys. Lead guy, Ken Foree as High Top, wearing a leather jacket with a light blue turtleneck with some design over that turtleneck that looks like a dressy top Harriette would wear. I don't know if you were confused as I was by this fashion statement.
I was like, this is a very ornate sweater with this leather jacket.
And again, this is the moment where I'm realizing, oh my God, it's Kanan's dad from Kanan and Kel. And from not having glasses, black don't crack, Ken Foree exactly looks the same about 7-8 years before he plays Kanan's dad.
Right. Doesn't age at all.
Carl is dumbfounded when he turns around and sees the obvious criminals and turns his language around to his family as a front by telling them to not come back until they bring him the money he owes them. These two guys are dumb if they believe Carl is really going to threaten these women like that. Come on.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out maybe Carl was supposed to be a pimp because we've got Vanessa dressed very suggestively and then he's got other women in the room. So I'm kind of thinking they thought he was a pimp.
He is a very well-dressed, normal-looking pimp. I feel like if you really want to go out with the pimp thing, you have like the fashionable hat, sort of like what black grandmas wear in church, and then, gold teeth, and you talk like you're a Southern rapper. Hey, how you doing, baby?
That was a great accent, John. And you just need some alligator shoes and you're all set to go.
Hey, what it is, shawty? What it is? The lead criminal, with his stern, deep voice, says nobody is going anywhere as he shuts the door. Another beautiful, deep voice. I mean, Jacques Bolton and Ken Foree, beautiful voices.
Just talk to me. Just read me the alphabet.
Carl attempts to speak to Vanessa in character and says, hey, baby, it's Jake and High Top. Worst actors ever, these two, I think. But okay, we have no choice but to buy Carl and Vanessa. They're doing the best they can.
This is high-quality stakeout police acting.
Yeah, the quotes on high quality. Sidekick criminal compliments Carl's suit and says the pinstripes make him look thinner. Nice callback to a few scenes ago. We like that joke. Sidekick criminal walks over to Mama Winslow and actually refers to her as Mama when he asks her what's happening. Mama Winslow is not taking this nonsense and puts this man in his place, saying, I am not your mama, sonny. I'm his mama. Yeah, Mama Winslow. Yeah.
Don't play with her.
Exactly. Sidekick criminal lightens off of Mama Winslow and walks over to Harriette and Rachel to check them out and is clearly attracted to Rachel when he asks, who is this? He creepily calls Rachel one fine-looking lady, and Rachel tries very funnily to put on a tough front by saying in her terrible deep voice impression, work out.
I do remember it, and I felt like Rachel was flirting with him.
I could see some of that. Like, it was like that terrified flirting, like, oh, you could kill me, but maybe I'm turned on by that.
It's kind of hot. I mean, I hope my husband proposes to me that way, so it's kind of hot.
You want a hitman for a husband? Is that what you're looking for?
I think that'd be fun. We could talk about work.
There you go. I'm going to hit that and hit you. I don't know what the line would be, but you get what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying.
Audience really enjoyed that moment, though. Sidekick criminal Jake, let's just call him Jake. I reference them as Jake and High Top, but yet I refer to them in my notes as lead criminal and sidekick criminal.
I like it, Jon. You have a way to classify them for yourself, so it works for you.
So Jake very suggestively says to Rachel he also works out. Carl, in supposedly pimp character, supposedly pimp Carl, but also as an undercover hint to his family, tells Jake that his girls were just leaving. Harriette, Rachel, and Mama Winslow in unison are vocally giving determined goodbyes. But nope, Jake puts his foot down and demands that nobody is leaving. A frightened Rachel turns around nervously and says, or we could just hang around, to try and diffuse the tension. Vanessa steps in and tells Jake that the ladies are cool and insists they make the trade they came for. Oh, God. High Top makes me laugh with this deep-voiced, smiling delivery of this line. You got the cash, we got the stash.
He's so corny.
Jake and Vanessa have a seat to make the deal, with Carl standing in between them, hiking up his pants and trying to look very serious in character, like he actually cares about this. Sidekick criminal reveals a bunch of jewelry after Vanessa reveals the cash, and Rachel quickly butts in with oblivious astonishment with this line, wow, what did you guys do, rob a jewelry store? Was that kind of Urkel the way I did that?
It was. In the episode, she sounded like Urkel when she said it.
Precursor of what's to come.
Rachel's giving us some foreshadowing.
Harriette tells Rachel to get back over here, physically pulling her back so she doesn't ruin this stakeout. Vanessa looks over to the merchandise and calls it fresh and beautiful. Carl asks the criminals where they got them as he looks through the hole of this jewelry thing that requires a hole. What is that thing? Yeah, like where it's like a sort of a binoculars thing for the jewelry. Like, what do you call that thing?
I don't know what it's called. I know it checks the clarity of the diamonds, but I don't know what it's called.
High Top proudly says the jewelry came from Lakeshore Drive, baby, and calls it nothing but the best. High Top asks if they have a deal. Carl says, oh, yeah, and then very obviously projects his voice into Vanessa's cleavage and says the magic line, they look real to me, but nothing happens yet. Jake confirms that the jewelry is indeed real. Vanessa gives the line another shot and shouts, they look real to me too, right into her cleavage. And wow, I mean, Carl and Vanessa, they don't really give a crap about like staying in character very well. They're just really giving it away.
They really are.
Jake, of course, is confused and suspicious and asks what's going on. Carl tries to diffuse the tension, but clearly makes it worse by repeating the magic line again into Vanessa's cleavage, but with an adjustment. They really look real to me. Really. And it's obviously played for comic effect. I'm laughing, but these criminals, I mean, they should have ran away or killed Carl and Vanessa and the rest of the family by now.
Immediately, as soon as they walked in, I would imagine if they were real criminals, everybody would have been dead as soon as they saw these random women there.
Yeah. Lead criminal, that is High Top, finally says there's something wrong and recommends to the sidekick that they should get out of here. Carl quickly drops his character, shows his badge, and tells the criminals they're under arrest. And then we get a chaotic choreographed scene as these guys are trying to escape. Carl manages to grab Jake and push him up against the bathroom door. Vanessa attempts to get High Top, but he shoves or punches her off. Rachel and Harriette step in to grab, I believe, High Top's arms. Was it High Top's arms that they were grabbing? Yeah. And High Top, a.k.a. Ken Foree, very damn strong enough to like flip Rachel's entire body off to the ground behind him with just his arm strength. And oh my God, I mean, the man whacks Harriette with a briefcase to get her off his other arm. And I really hope that Jo Marie is okay in this, Andrew, because I was like, oh my God, it looks like she really got hit by that as she went down on the bed.
It did. When Rachel got pushed, I was like, wow, this is some good acting. I hope nobody got hurt. And then when he hit Harriette, I was like, oh.
And as you'd expect, Mama Winslow saves the day by doing that Karate Kid body flip move on this tall man as he falls to the ground. And let me just say, I mean, the stage combat instructor, whoever instructed this choreography, they didn't do the best job. Because if you pay attention, like High Top flips himself to the ground before Mama Winslow has a chance to do the move with her arms. Now, did you buy into the stage combat or did you notice that thing that happened?
I noticed her right away. You see when she steps in to raise her arm to grab him, he's already flipping.
Yeah, like it's literally like, oh, here's how we do stage combat in our theater class, just so we don't hurt each other. It was very clear that they maybe rehearsed this only once.
Yeah, I don't think they even thought about doing this at the table read because it looks so clunky.
But the audience doesn't care, though. I mean, they are applauding Mama Winslow's karate skills. They are on Rosetta's side as High Top is on the ground. Harriette and Rachel quickly get up from their weekend positions to witness what happened. Mama Winslow has her fists on her hips looking at this guy like, yeah, Sonny, you better recognize that I just flipped your ass to the ground, even though you helped me do it.
She's like, I beat you up, but you did it yourself.
Yeah, you helped me beat you up. Yeah, I showed you. And Vanessa quickly steps in to put the handcuffs on the fallen lead criminal, who again is High Top. Oh my God, Jon Francois notes. What are you doing? Vanessa looks at Mama Winslow impressed and says, nice move, Mama. Mama Winslow again with another great line. You should have known me when I had two good hips.
This is Mama Winslow's life leaking out into reality. She probably kicked some butt. She was probably in Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I could honestly believe that. A+ episode for Rosetta Lenoir. And then we fade to black on definitely the longest scene ever on Family Matters. Scene 7, exterior night shot of Winslow house. Cut to living room with Eddie and Laura seated on what I think is a lighter version of the Pepto-Bismol single-person couch as they delightfully listen to Rachel brag about how good Mama Winslow was at the stakeout. And she's seated on the center stage couch with Harriette to her right and Mama Winslow to her left in an individual chair. Eddie is blown away by his bedroom-stealing grandma and says his dad and Vanessa must be lucky she came along. Mama Winslow, in her sweet, comforting, grandmotherly way, tells Eddie his grandpa Sam taught her that jujitsu move and it works every time. Laura encourages Mama Winslow to demonstrate the move on Eddie. Eddie does not want any of that smoke. I'm suddenly realizing that Harriette is looking depressed and she tells the kids to go to bed. Eddie tells his mom he wants to wait for dad to get home, but Harriette says if she has to tell Eddie once more to go to bed, she's going to have his grandma do the jujitsu move on him. Eddie gets the point and exits. Rachel says that what happened tonight would make a great novel. Mama Winslow suggests the novel could be called Kung Fu Mama. Looks like Rachel would actually have family permission on this novel if she were to write this one.
She would. And we just got into another conspiracy here. Rachel is doing this to the family for her writing. She's creating these scenarios so she has good material.
I like that theory. Family Matters writers, pay attention. I like that theory. Harriette asks Mama Winslow and Rachel to stop joking because this is serious. Harriette believes they made total fools of themselves. Mama Winslow tells Harriette to speak for herself because she's up for a commendation. I didn't know what that meant. Did you know what that meant?
Yes, I didn't know what a commendation was. So that is an award or a recognition that you get from typically law enforcement for being somebody useful and stopping a crime.
I like that. All right. And Google, when I looked it up myself, an award involving special praise, but your definition is a lot more better defined.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Harriette says they could have almost blown the operation. Someone could have gotten hurt and they embarrassed Carl. Rachel tells Harriette to not be hard on herself and basically makes Harriette feel worse with this line while predictably not taking some responsibility. So, so what, Harriette? Your insane jealousy clouded your good judgment and drove you to an act of desperation. And of course, Harriette looks at Rachel like, really, woman? Are you really talking to me like this? Rachel continues on and says to Harriette she's sure Carl will forgive her eventually. And then Mama Winslow adds to the responsibility lacking Harriette blame by telling her to have a little faith in her Carl in the future and then to not be quick to jump to conclusions. So we're getting like a tag team gaslighting between Mama Winslow and Rachel right now.
We really are. They're both just like, oh, it's your fault, Harriette.
Harriette quickly and wittingly replies that she didn't jump. She was pushed. Rachel starts to accept responsibility and says maybe she did fan the flames a little and maybe she's been reading too many of those trashy romance novels, another callback to an earlier scene. Harriette looks away depressingly and suggests to Mama Winslow and Rachel that they go to bed, but Mama Winslow says she's too wired to sleep. Rachel seconds that. Mama Winslow suggests ringing some doorbells in the neighborhood and then running to get the adrenaline out. Rachel laughs at this idea giddily as her and Mama Winslow exit and enter suit-wearing stakeout Carl from the front door, giving Harriette a slightly playful tisk-tisk downward head look. He says the criminals finally have been booked and there's a bonus. The one that Mama Winslow flipped is claiming police brutality. A very rough term. I feel like it's more like grandma karate brutality.
Oh, yeah. That was grandma kicks your butt brutality.
Yeah. Police brutality now means a lot differently than it did in 1989.
Yes, it does, because that was nothing.
Harriette thankfully tells Carl how sorry she is and she feels terrible that she doubted him. In comes our sappy message piano background music as Carl walks away from Harriette to process this apology for a bit. He says he's actually kind of flattered because for Harriette to be jealous after all these years together does something good to the old ego. Harriette stresses again how sorry she is. She claims she was fine when she saw the key, but then she lost it. Carl assures Harriette that she is the only woman in the world for him. This lovely couple exchange I love yous and kisses to each other to a few quiet ahs from the studio audience. Looks like they're liking more and more Carl and Harriette's dynamic here.
They're having a little more fun getting to know how to kiss each other.
that too. Yep. A lot better than I think episode 2. And then, of course, to lighten the sentimental mood, Harriette kind of playfully wonders if there's a way she can make it up to Carl. Carl thinks about it for a sec and suggests that there's always Louis' love grotto. They deserve a lot better than that.
They do, but for one night only, I bet you there's like a champagne jacuzzi.
Yes, covered in polyester.
Ugh.
Yep, polyester and Old Spice cologne or something.
Oh, polyester, Old Spice cologne, and shame. That's what's going on in that room.
But alas, Carl confirms that the room is available till tomorrow at noon, which seems generous because nowadays I think checkout is usually 11.
Yeah, typically they're like, get out of here. We need you out.
Carl and Harriette laugh for a moment as if they're joking, but then they actually take the opportunity seriously after a moment of thinking, and Harriette says she'll race Carl to the hot tub. The two make a run for it to the front door, and the credits come up as they exit. The end. What an episode. What are your closing thoughts?
This was a great episode. It dawned on me. Ken Foray is the main character in Dawn of the Dead. That was the movie I was trying to think of. Dawn of the Dead is one of his, at least to me, biggest roles that I know him from. So that just like dawned on me when I was thinking about it. But I love this episode. I thought this was amazing.
So Ken, what was Dawn of the Dead? Was that like way before Kenan and Kel?
Yeah, that was 1978.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, even before he got on Kenan and Kel, because of course, you know, me being a kid in the 90s and 2000s, I'm thinking like, oh yeah, there's that dad. But, you know, to see this great background that he's had in horror movies and other genres as well, it's just like, wow. Again, what a strong episode for Mama Winslow. What a great gaslighting episode for Rachel. What a great lesson in jealousy and you know, within Carl and Harriette's marriage.
Yeah, this was a great dynamic. Everybody on the cast, the main cast, appeared. They all had lines, and it was really good.
Yeah, so we're hoping for more strength as we go on in season 1. I mean, I think we still have like 2 episodes before Urkel's official debut, so there you go. And for you listening, you know, if you don't know, now you know. Am I quoting the Notorious B.I.G.? Did I just do that?
You did, and I like it.
I'll go with it. Subscribe, rate, and review The Delicious Recap Family Matters wherever you listen to podcasts. All questions, comments, concerns, feedback can go to thedeliciousrecap@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and YouTube. If you want to be like that lovely listener at Josie Joe, that's at Family Matters Rewatch Pod, pretty much everywhere on social media. At Family Matters Rewatch Pod. Send us a DM, and we would love to hear from you and maybe tickle you. So let's tease our next episode that we're recapping. I think another episode diving into Carl's line of work, right? I mean, we have season 1, episode 10, False Arrest, original air date December 1st, 1989. And even though we're only, again, a mere 2-3 episodes away from Urkel's debut officially, we still get another random Urkel cold open.
We do. This cold open I haven't watched yet, so it's going to be my first time seeing this cold open when I watch the episode later tonight.
Before your Wi-Fi connection makes it seem like you're dying a slow death, can you let us out with our lovely slogan?
Yes, like frozen yogurt, let the deliciousness ring.
Damn it, your Wi-Fi is
freeze. Darn it, hang on. Okay, am I good now? All right, so like frozen yogurt, let's let deliciousness ring.